as an audience, we know it's the right thing to happen. We know that from a morals and ethics standpoint that it's right, but it doesn't make it legal just because it's right.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Doug Defends, the show where a real lawyer talks about fake things. I am Billy Business, and my partner, is he a little good, a little bad, a little mix of both, Mr. Doug Ridley.
All right. I can take all of that, Star-Lord, Billy Lord. Ooh. That jacket is looking awesome.
Right?
Awesome.
The best Halloween costume that doesn't fit that I own.
I love everything about that. When we were talking about the show for today, I was trying to figure out whether I was going to, there are a couple of, bald characters that work on this. I mean, I could be Drax. I could be Yondu.
You could be Nebula.
I could be Nebula.
Wow, this is like a bald person's paradise, right?
It is. Except I'd have to paint my face. And
oh, you love painting your face.
No, I really don't. Honestly, yeah.
Well, today we're talking about... There's just no way out of that, right?
No, not really.
Yeah, okay. Today we're talking about 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. I don't know if Volume 1's an official title, but we'll throw it on there since there's a Volume 2 and 3. Starring Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Bradley Cooper, Vin Diesel, kind of, sort of,
yeah.
Michael Rooker, John C. Reilly, and Glenn Close. Hell of a cast.
Yeah.
This was, to me, a turning point for Marvel.
Agreed.
2014, to me, was kind of a turning point. We had just gotten through Phase 1. The Avengers movies was big, but then it was like, but what are we going to do now?
Right.
And I feel like 2014 was Captain America the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And then a couple months later, 3 or 4 months later, was Guardians of the Galaxy.
Which I could care less about.
I don't think anybody
Marvel
could.
Space stuff. Like, I read a lot of Marvel comics.
Sure.
A lot. Still, to this day, read a lot of Marvel comics. And the space stories never really grasped me. The Nova Corps, I don't really care. Guardians never really got me at all. But holy cow. But then, the trailer. I think actually this is probably the reason why people were paying attention is the Ooga Chaka Hooked on a Feeling trailer for this. Got us all thinking, wow, Marvel's going to go James Gunn and have cool music and a super cool trailer. And
I would say by this
kind of
point,
cool.
No one knows who James Gunn is.
Right.
No one knows who a single character is in
Oh,
this
for sure
thing.
not. There's not a single recognizable character.
There's a tree that moves.
Right.
There's a raccoon that talks.
Right. Don't call him a raccoon.
There's something about this movie that's just like I could totally understand the stress of like we are really gambling here that we have built up enough goodwill to get away with what we're about to get away with.
And I remember in the trailer, they're like, what a bunch of a-holes.
Right. they put the like, this is an irreverent, comedic.
And they're just all in their prison garb. And they're just like, this is just a mess of people and
things.
Yeah. And we're going to play cool music in the background and maybe you're going to like it.
I remember I saw this early. I saw it about a week and a half before it came out. And I was like, this might be the closest in my generation that I will ever get to be like, I feel like I just saw Star Wars.
Yeah.
I feel like I just saw something so new, so fresh, so amazing. This was the one that I was like, babe, I know you're not into these Marvel things, but I think you would like this one. And this is what got my wife into the Marvel movies was Guardians of the Galaxy.
It had nothing to do with the fact that they sprayed Chris Pratt down with orange paint.
I don't know if she's a Pratt.
Pratt.
Yeah, she's not a Pratt brat. But I think it's an infectious charm that this movie has. It's very rewatchable. Very much like one of my other favorite movies, Ocean's 11, where it's just like, here's a disparate group of weirdos who are so cool.
Yeah.
And the music is cool.
Yeah.
And everything they do is cool. And it's funny.
Yeah.
And heartfelt at the same time.
Yeah.
Still one of my favorite. I'd say this is in my top 5 most rewatchable movies. Like, you can throw this one on with no context. I don't have to watch 10 other Marvels before or after.
Right.
You know?
And I mean, I'm remembering like it was his, not only like the first scene and how iconic all that is, but he was like, "You might know me as Star-Lord." Who? Come on, man. He's like, come on. Like, I'm somebody. Like,
I will also say they did a great job marketing this. You mentioned the trailer, but also I remember Disneyland, they took out Captain EO, and it became like this thing where they're like, hey, we got this new movie, Guardians, coming out. Come watch the first 5 minutes. And it was that Morag scene. They basically, they did they very briefly edited the Morag scene. Okay. So it was down to about 8-9 minutes, right? But I remember seeing that and I was like, this could be really interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So definitely Guardians of the Galaxy, the first of, 4 if you want to count the holiday special.
I do.
Yeah.
Holiday specials, magic. I love the holiday special. Little Kevin Bacon.
But we are a legal show.
Yes.
So we are going to talk about the legal things in this movie, which I'm very happy to say sometimes when we do superhero movies, it's like property destruction, vigilante.
Right.
That's what it boils down to.
Are they really allowed to beat up that guy? No.
But because this is, I don't even know if I call this a superhero movie, honestly. No. I think they just happen to exist within a franchise that has superheroes.
Right.
But we're going to talk about a lot of interesting things because there are a lot of crimes, a lot of legal gray areas, and touching upon a lot of different areas that we would expect. So let's get right into it. We start this movie with a flat-out kidnapping.
Yes.
Like, let's just go.
Yeah.
So Peter eventually accepts, and this is a couple like the next movie really, but for the most part, Peter accepts Yondu as like his father, essentially.
Kinda. Eventually.
His father figure. I think he comes around to it mostly.
In Guardians 1, he's still complaining about how he always told him that they all wanted to eat him. Which now in hindsight, they never tasted Terran.
Yeah, was this? That was a really good Michael Rooker. God,
Thank you.
I really wish you would have dressed as Yondu.
I know.
I'm curious though. Like, I'm trying to find it's very hard to find a real world, but it's like he's kidnapped, right?
Right.
But this is different than like someone kidnapping a kid and even taking them across state lines. I guess this is more like taking them
across galactic lines.
Yeah, but I guess the most we could say is like if someone abducted a child and took them to the other side of the world.
Right.
Are there levels of kidnapping? Because also, like, is this true that it's like a majority of kidnappings are actually just family members?
That is true. And we especially see issues where there's custody disputes between, partners that are no longer together, and, during exchanges, kid not showing up, and then all of a sudden they're in another country or gone, and as a father, gosh, not to say that kidnapping children is right, but I mean, I would lose my damn mind if I couldn't see my kids. I'm very fortunately married for a very long time, and wife and I have been able to see our kids the whole time. But I have clients always who are torn up because they can't see their 3-year-old anymore because of a divorce and because of bad allegations and people not getting along well. So there's that aspect of it. The other aspect of it is kidnapping and going across state lines and going internationally. Now you're talking about much bigger crimes and federal crimes and all of those things. But there's an interesting legal issue with this kidnapping at the beginning of Guardians.
Okay.
Because there's a different reason for it that we don't find out about in detail until Guardians 2 with the, brilliant Peter Quill's father, Ego, played by Kurt Russell, who explains that the kidnapping wasn't even so much a kidnapping. Mom had died, so he should go to live with Dad.
So Yondu goes from kidnapping to I'm just picking you up from school and I'm taking you home to your dad.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, so we get a completely different lens on all of it. And then Yondu figures out that maybe Dad is not the right place. And then Yondu does break laws by not potentially fulfilling his contract with Ego, the planet eater, and decides to keep Peter for himself. So Yondu definitely commits crimes either with theory number one that we're presented with at the beginning of Guardians, or the theory as it wraps up throughout Guardians 2.
We talked a little bit about this, I think it was all the way back in first episode of Revenge of the Sith, where it's like Yondu kidnaps Peter and keeps him, but it's ultimately to keep him safe. Now, with Obi-Wan taking and Bail taking Luke and Leia, you were like, well, it doesn't matter. He still did it.
Right.
But there's got to be some consideration because, yes, like if I'm a prosecutor and, sometimes we say like, and these movies were the evidence, right?
Right.
If I'm only seeing this, it's pretty cut and dry.
Right.
But if I'm seeing part 2 and I'm like, oh, he was supposed to just drop him off with his biological father, which is where he should have gone.
Right.
And that was not a safe place for him.
Right.
Then, like, does that lessen the charge?
I mean, imagine for a second if layering in Revenge of the Sith, right? If Obi-Wan had been charged to take Luke back to the Amidala's.
Right.
His actual family. Right? And then decided not to and took him to Tatooine instead.
Wow, Yondu kind of is like a blue Obi-Wan blue.
He's a blue Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, with less hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I
kind of got force powers
I think we could end the episode right there.
Yeah, well, that's been Duck Defense for you. So yeah, I mean, but really, like, with that context, that has to at least help a little bit.
Yeah, it does. It's unclear to me at what point. I'd have to rewatch Guardians 2 again, but at which point Yondu decides not to give Peter to Ego because he knows Ego's bad, or because I don't remember that plot element.
I don't remember either. It sounds like because the thing I don't remember is, did he know that already when he went to pick up Peter?
Right.
I need to get this kid away from his dad,
or did he pick up? I definitely got the sense that Yondu picked up Peter because Ego hired him to go get Peter. Go get my son. Mm. And then almost like Yondu had second thoughts on his way back to Ego and decided to hold on to him. I think that's how it played out. That's kind of the impression
I got, yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I would defend Yondu because I think it's defensible on either way, but I think on either way, he's getting charged for kidnapping, whether it's the Guardians 1 version or the Guardians 2 version.
Well,
he either took him from his mom or he took him and didn't deliver him to his dad.
Here's the problem. However altruistic he was in keeping him, what happens next is that he basically forces Peter to steal and be a part of his crew.
Ravagers!
Yeah, so is that child labor? I mean, here's the thing. At least I've seen it in other movies or something where it's like there's like a man and a woman, they're like thieves, right? And they have a kid that's like they kind of forced to do some of their schemes and stuff. But it's like, yeah, I feel like that undoes pretty much anything.
It kind of undoes that. I mean, Yondu definitely says a lot of things about, earning your keep.
I don't know how much of that is like legitimate.
Yeah.
Like that just seems like kind of razzing.
Yeah, he does. And so it's hard to say. I think I think he definitely is contributing to the delinquency of a minor. I think Star-Lord wouldn't be, the infamous Star-Lord thief renowned throughout the galaxy that nobody knows. If he wasn't raised to be such a good thief through the Ravagers.
But are you a good thief if everyone knows your name?
See, so maybe he's the best thief.
All right, so we catch up with Peter later on. He's an adult, and he is now on the lookout for this.
Oh, the orb.
The orb. Now, we don't know as an audience what's inside of it, and I don't even think he knows what's inside of it. He just knows that Yondu wants it. It must be valuable.
Right.
So we talked a little bit about this in the... Why do you still have it? What does Rocket say? So we talked about this in the Indiana Jones episode.
Yes.
But
stealing of antiquities.
Stealing of antiquities is essentially what he's doing. But it seems like this planet is abandoned.
Yeah, it certainly looks like it. The way that we have him mapping out the destroyed, abandoned civilization, we definitely have a Raiders of the Lost Ark feel of this.
Right. So, like, if Morag is abandoned, then there should be no laws broken. I mean, it's not like who's it belong to?
Right. We're right back to Finders Keepers from the Indiana Jones episode.
My favorite legal argument we've done on this show.
No, I mean, it does raise the question of... I was about to say, it does raise the question of why is it so well protected? But then again, the temple idol in beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark is pretty darn well protected by giant boulders and spears and spikes and all of the things. So, yeah, Finders Keepers.
Okay, so far, we're 7-8 minutes into the movie. No laws broken.
That's well, except for Yondu and the kidnapping, but yeah,
no laws by Peter Quill.
No laws by Peter Quill. I think he's out looking for it because he hears that there's a good bounty on it. And we just have to stop for a second and just acknowledge Star-Lord's kicking rats and singing with the rats.
It's great.
And that whole opening sequence is so good. And my kids, don't know, Come and Get Your Love. They call that the Star-Lord kicking rat song.
Okay.
And so I remember when they were little kids, like, Dad, can we listen to Star-Lord kicking rats? Like, yes. Yes, you can.
That's a catchy title.
That's fantastic.
It sets the tone perfectly for the rest of the movie, right?
Exactly.
And especially coming off that very dramatic opening.
Yeah.
It sets the balance of like, we're going to do some heavy emotional stuff, but we're also going to have a lot of fun.
And it just made me laugh so hard. They filled up every single bit of the frame for the title, for the Guardians title.
I mean, the best part too is when you get to see it 10 or however many years later, 8 years later, whatever, in game from the other perspective.
Oh,
and you see how dorky it really is without, the music and the speakers. It's just some guy like singing terribly. Yeah, it's really fun. So that's kind of our introduction to Star-Lord. He's going to be our not quite as suave and smooth Han Solo through this whole thing.
Come on, man, I'm Star-Lord.
Then we're going to start to meet other people from this crew. We have Nebula and Gamora. So they call each other sisters. They're not actually related. They are both kidnapped, trafficked children themselves.
For sure, yeah.
For Thanos. I mean, I don't want to get too dark.
I'm gonna start laughing now every time you say that.
It's so hard because it's like the abuse they suffer by Thanos.
Yeah.
Nebula in particular.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we saw a lot of people up in arms about the ear piercing thing from Freaky Friday.
Yeah.
I mean, would you consider what he does to Nebula upgrading her mayhem like it was?
I mean, the
before?
stuff on the face, for sure. And we get over the course of this entire saga that Gamora is the stronger one, the faster one, the more favored one. And so she's doing all of those things, some of which it sounds like she's doing to herself, a lot of which was done to her.
I would say a majority of it sounds like it was done to her.
The horrible scene with all in I don't remember if it was Infinity War or Endgame, with all of her parts all
Infinity
stretched
War.
out.
Yeah.
Like, it just shows you how damaged she is, and so much of that appears to be from Thanos. So I would argue mayhem, I would argue assault, I would argue all of those things, unless she was like, you know what I really want, Gamora keeps being faster than me, I want bionic legs.
Yeah, but you have to assume, well, I guess,
by the way, I guess that shows my age that I called him bionic legs and not cybernetic legs. I'm thinking
like
$6 million man.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, like, we don't know how long she's been tampered with.
Right.
If she's 18, 21, and he started fiddling around and she said, yeah, I want to be better. Different than when she's 6, 7, and he's like, you need to be better.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And we do know that that's when Gamora was kidnapped, because we see little Gamora
in Infinity
War. But yeah, wow.
So let's talk about Gamora for a second. There was 2 things that really stood out to me this time. And I know I'm kind of jumping around in the movie. It's a little hard to follow it chronologically in our discussions. But Gamora essentially defects from Thanos.
Right.
It's subtle, but in we find out that's why she's really after the orb. It's because she wants to get rid of it to get away from Thanos, right?
Right.
Would you give her at that point kind of like immunity for anything she's done at that point? Because it's like she's been under duress for her entire life. This is really her first chance to get out in a way that we see.
Well, and I don't even know that she would need immunity, because I see it as an escape, and I see it as her trying to somehow stop Thanos, which is noble. You would need her to have immunity if, like, the Nova Corps was prosecuting her, or some governmental agency was prosecuting her, or something like that. Or I'm not going to get Thanos is not going to grant her immunity.
But we also from the Nova Corps, I guess.
Right.
We're saying in this world the Nova Corps is the justice system. I don't know if that's true for all of Marvel, but for the sake of this conversation, it is.
Yeah.
We don't know what crimes she may have done in the name of Thanos up to this point.
Well, and we know from the booking
she has some sort of
that
rap
she definitely
sheet.
has rap sheet. You got to pause and freeze frame really carefully if you want to read that, and let you do that on your own time. But she definitely has a rap sheet. She has other crimes, and the prison seems to know her, right? So when they're finally captured, all the prison knows that she's the child of Thanos and she's committed horrible atrocities and all these things.
You're assuming.
Right.
You're assuming that they do know her because she's the daughter of Thanos. That's irrefutable. You're assuming that it's because she also did those things. You don't know if it's just because...
That's true.
You know?
I thought I remembered them saying something about, you killed my family, or something along those lines. And I assumed that was her, but...
Well,
that's fair.
Because that brings up my second question, which is, they make it known, mostly for us, the audience, but when she's being booked and in the prison, this is the daughter of Thanos.
Right.
Now, I'm trying to think. It's like, it doesn't seem fair to me. That's like, what if I was the son of Jeffrey Dahmer and I committed a crime? I didn't kill anybody, but, vehicular manslaughter, and I'm the son of Jeffrey Dahmer, and I go to court and they're like, you know him, that's the son of Jeffrey Dahmer. It seems like you're already on an unfair bias.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like the book is thrown at Gamora because of her association with her father. Like,
right.
Is that legal?
Well, it's a factor to be considered, and sometimes it's impossible to remove the emotion that's from that. Tom Girardi was infamous attorney, personal injury attorney here in Los Angeles, who was arrested, convicted, and sentenced for stealing millions of dollars from his clients. The other family members that knew a little bit about that the headline that I read wasn't, John Smith. It was Tom Girardi's nephew also commits crimes, so those sorts of examples in the real world, unfortunately it matters.
Yeah, it's just, this is where like I think the plot moves along at such a brisk pace, and it's such a plus of the movie. But if we're looking at the legal aspects, it's like, but that means they brush over a lot of things, because now we're on Xandar, right? The orb has ended up on Xandar. Chris Pratt is trying to sell it. Then Gamora comes along. She wants it. A big fight ensues. Rocket and Groot are there. It becomes this whole big thing. All of them get arrested, right?
Right.
No trial.
Right.
Yeah, there's no trial.
Right. Well, and as the lawyer in the room,
okay,
I wasn't as concerned about the no trial yet. I got the sense that it was a holding area for potentially a trial down the line. It was hard for me to know whether or not, in this system in Xandar, whether they were in custody pending trial, or whether they were judge, jury, executioner sentenced to 6 years in prison, like Cassian Andor was, and then just done. We didn't really have that similar Andor scene of the counter clerk, right, doing the sentencing and doing all of those things. I got, whether it's a holding area or whether it's a full-on prison, you definitely got the sense that this was the worst of the worst, that these are super bad guys that were being held there, bad people in general, that were bad creatures that were being held there. One thing that really struck me about that, especially on the second watching, wasn't even necessarily that they were there pending trial or punished, but the idea that if someone was at that much at risk, they would be held in protective custody in our areas. I mean, if Jeffrey Dahmer's nephew was placed in custody, our custodial system it has to protect them. I mean, we have a system in our jails that puts different color bands on different folks that are either affiliated with a different gang so that two gangs aren't placed in the same place, or someone who's committed really heinous crimes and they know that they're going to get absolutely brutalized if they get released into general population. They're segregated out and they're kept safe while they're in there. So I was just thinking about, man, daughter of Thanos needs to have some, protective custody while she's in the clink, because like she really, I mean, the fact that they got her and were about to kill her or God knows what else, they had a duty to keep her safe while they were holding her.
Well, the other thing that's interesting about that prison in particular is it's not common to house men and women in the same facility, right?
Not here. Yes.
Right. Here being California, or here being Earth?
Here being Earth.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if there is a prison system in another country that does co-ed prisons. I can't imagine that being okay. But yeah, I mean, not to say that they were going to do anything other than kill Gamora, but you definitely had some licking of lips and weird creepo bad prison behavior kind of stuff, right, looking like it maybe was going to go down.
So Rocket and Groot also get sent to this prison
yes,
with them.
I need that guy's leg.
One of the funniest Marvel scenes ever. But is that an admission of sentience to both of them? The fact that it's like, well, if we're going to put you in jail, that means you actually are sentient and you have the rights of anyone else.
Yeah, and we've talked about sentience and responsibility for creatures. A lot of times, Rocket is a raccoon, except you're not allowed to call him a raccoon, and there's nobody like
until
him
the end
but
of
him.
Volume 3.
Right, and then it all becomes clear. But still, And there's no question that anybody voiced by Bradley Cooper is going to have sentience. I mean,
no,
he's
it's more
amazing.
just like they put a tree and a raccoon in prison with everyone else.
The tree is what's interesting, right? Because there could be an argument, and we talked about this with other creatures in other movies or other droids in other movies, that Groot almost is like Rocket's pet, in a way. Yeah. Rocket understands what he has to say, and we know over the course of the story that I am Groot means a lot of different things.
Right.
But
Thor took Groot, so it is a language.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we can't really tell how much he's communicating and the words that he's saying and all of those things. But, I think in the first scene we see him, he's lapping up water out of the fountain in Xandar,
right.
Like our dog would be doing, so I don't know. But it's true that and certainly acknowledge that they've granted him sentience, which is the reason why he can be held in custody.
Well, let's talk about Rocket for a second in terms of being a bounty hunter. Just set the record straight, because we hear bounty hunter and I think we either think of Boba Fett or dog,
right? Right.
But what are the legalities of bounty hunters? What can they do? What can't they do? And are they considered authority? If a bounty hunter tells me to freeze, do I have to listen to him?
No. On the other hand, I would advise you, Billy, that if a bounty hunter is holding a blaster at your face, that you stop and you freeze.
Well, hold on. If I'm talking,
or a firearm.
Yes.
Honestly, you're going to freeze. Now let's talk about bounty hunters.
But I can't hold a gun to your head and say freeze.
Right.
So what gives a bounty hunter the right? They're not authorized by anybody, as far as I know.
All right, let's talk about bounty hunters.
Yeah,
they are authorized by someone, and it's a question of who and why. So first of all, let's talk about Boba Fett. Boba Fett gets his bounties because I decide that I want Billy Business into my castle because Billy Business cheated me at poker or sabacc, right? So I send Boba Fett out to get Billy Business, and he puts you in carbonite and brings you in and all of those things.
Sure.
That is me authorizing kidnapping.
Right.
I mean, it's me using an agent to kidnap you. That's not legal. And so if there is a bounty hunter example in our real world of somebody saying just randomly, I don't like Billy Business, or I do like Billy Business, and I want Billy Business transported over to my thing, and they duct tape you up and put you in the trunk and bring you over to the castle or the mansion or whatever, crime. 100%. It's kidnapping. It's using another person for kidnapping.
I don't know.
However,
castle sounds kind of cool. I might consent.
You might. On the other hand, Dog, the bounty hunter, you gave me the two perfect examples, is authorized, and this is how he's authorized. There was a really famous case that actually happened while I was a prosecutor way back in the olden times with hair. There was a person named Andrew Luster, heir of the Max Factor fortune, who had sexually assaulted a bunch of women by drugging them. And in the middle of his trial, when it looked like things were going really, really, really bad, he yeeted out and was gone. They decided to finish the trial without him, which had its own legal issues and appellate issues and all those things, but it was upheld, and they sentenced him to multiple life sentences, to just maxed him out on every possible thing they could ever possibly max him out on. But he's a fugitive. He had posted bail, and the whole idea of posting bail is, let's say that my bail is $1 million. Well, I'm going to put down 10%, 8%, something like that. So anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000 of my own money, so that an insurance company puts the rest of the money into the pot, but with a certificate, not actually putting money. But they basically put an insurance bond on you with the promise that you're going to stick around. You're not going to go off to South America or Mexico or, Tahiti or France or wherever, right? So in that contract that you signed to get yourself out of custody, you say, First of all, I promise I'm going to go to court all the time. Second of all, I promise that if I fail to go to court, I'm going to owe you $1 million because you're certainly not responsible, bond company, for putting up $1 million.
Okay.
And I'm okay with the fact that somebody's going to grab me off the street, duct tape me, put me in the back of their trunk, and take me to court forcibly. And I'm okay with the fact that I might be assaulted and kidnapped, and I waive all of my rights for being assaulted, kidnapped, and forcibly brought back to court. Because I would prefer, while my trial is pending, to be out of custody, walking around getting McDonald's, than being in custody in the jail. Now that we understand what bail is, when somebody flees, the insurance company doesn't want to pay $1 million or $10 million or even $100,000. So they say, Dog the bounty hunter, go get that guy, Andrew Luster. And they did. And they found him in Mexico and duct taped him and put him in the back of the trunk. And there was more interesting things. But bounty hunters who are recovering fugitives from lawful justice are 100% legal and happen all the time, and I see them in the system regularly.
Are they allowed to use just about any means possible?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if they were going to cut off your arm, no. But if you get roughed up after, your wrists from being zip tied are owies, or you get punched in the face a bunch of times as they're putting you in the trunk, you have already agreed in your promise to appear that they are going to get you by any means necessary. So
why wouldn't you just offer a bounty hunter more money? Like, hey, I'll give you twice what I'm worth.
Oh, it's the principle of the thing.
Bounty hunters are principled.
Yeah, well, Din Djarin, from Mandalorian would tell you. But truly, it's more the reason why. If they, and I'm sure that it has happened in the past that a bounty hunter has been paid off, but again, you're not going to get the big deals if you're known as the guy that takes payoffs. So there's all that. But I actually had a client who dug a tunnel underneath his house and hid out in tunnels underneath his house until the bounty hunters found him. So that's all a thing that happens for real.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I wasn't looking for him because, it's not my job.
You just wait until they're in.
I just waited till he came back to court eventually and had a bunch of showers and then bro, I told you not to leave.
Yeah. Even subterranean.
Right.
Yeah, that counts. So we get to the part where they're going to break out of the Kyln, right? The prison.
Yeah.
Now, this is tough because we're talking assault. We're talking riots.
Yes.
Assaulting police officers,
right.
or I assume they're like police officers.
Taking that guy's leg.
Stealing. Yeah. And just escaping from custody.
Right.
I mean, okay, so I actually watched a really interesting movie the other day. Have you heard of it? It's called Roofman, and it's based on a true story.
No.
It's based on a true story of a guy who escaped from prison and hid out in a Toys R Us for a couple of years and then was finally caught.
Wow.
But talk to me just first, before we get into the actual what they did in this, in general. If you escape from prison, 9 times out of 10, you're eventually going to get found, I assume.
Yes.
How much worse is it getting escaped?
So much worse.
At that point, is it just you might as well just jump off a cliff?
No, I wouldn't say that. But, people who are going to escape from prison are people that generally have significant time hanging over their head. You don't hear of people escaping prison for their 2-week jail sentence. Well, you don't really hear people escaping from prison, period, really. I mean, if it ever happens, it makes the news because it's so rare.
Because it doesn't happen, or because they don't want to advertise that people get out?
Maybe there are people escaping from prison every day and we just don't hear about it. But no, it's because it doesn't happen. I mean,
it seems like it'd be very, very difficult.
Very, very
to get
difficult.
Out. Yeah.
Very, very, very difficult. So the punishment as you can imagine, is through the roof, because there's two different layers. There's the new prosecution for escaping custodial facility, and then there's whatever punishment you get from the actual custodial facility for breaking rules.
Yeah.
So that's where you hear people going in the hole and, solitary confinement and all of those sorts of things.
Have you ever had a client that escaped from jail?
No. No.
I mean, I assume you've had clients that have run.
Well, I had Tunnel Guy.
Oh, that's what Tunnel Man.
Yeah. And I definitely have had clients who have just said, okay, I'll see you in court next week. And I've never seen him again.
Yeah.
I have some clients that's happened to. And my advice is the same. I assume that law enforcement is going to get their phone at some point, and I want law enforcement to see, I advise you to not flee and return to court immediately.
We're creeping away, but now this is just my morbid curiosity. If that happened, you're like, sure, I'll be at court next week, and they run, but they come back like a day or two later, like, I shouldn't have done that. Like, is there any chance that they won't be completely screwed?
Yeah, if it's a couple days like that, I mean, I can go back in and say, hey, panic attack, bad choices, we missed court, and now we're here, and let's just go ahead and move forward like nothing else had happened.
Did they get their bond revoked?
Sometimes they do, but if it's just a couple days like that, I can actually have their bond reinstated pretty easily. Because we do have sometimes clients who legitimately miss their court date, forget about it, are super sick, get
How
panicked.
Could you forget about?
I can't imagine how you would forget about something as important as going to court. But
your life is on the line.
Right.
Like, oh man, that was today.
Yeah. Gosh, I was at the beach all day. I could have been there.
Will a jury ever find out about that when
No.
the trial starts? I was going to say, because if I'm a juror, I'm like, well, then clearly they don't care.
No, I mean, unless they're specifically being tried for
Right.
escaping custody or
Right.
specifically being tried for failing to appear. But a good lawyer is going to prevent that from ever being in front of a jury.
So we get out of jail.
Yes.
But could you argue, I mean, I don't know if they know that. I think they do know that Ronan's coming. Ronan is kind of our, I mean, we're talking about all bad guys.
Right.
He's the worst guy. He's
Right.
the one that wants genocide against the Kree, I believe.
He wants to take the
Or he is
stone
Kree,
and wipe out all of Xandar.
Right. Thanos has hired Ronan to get the orb because we find out that it's an Infinity Stone that Thanos is obviously going to be using later on.
Yes.
But Ronan's like, no, I kind of want that for me. I think that would be good for what
That'd
I'm
be cool.
doing here.
I want to wipe out an entire species.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they know Ronan's coming and he's going to wipe out everybody in that jail to get to them, could you, if you were their attorney, argue like, hey, they were in imminent danger. They just needed to get to safety.
Yeah, and I would try to suggest that maybe they didn't leave until Ronan was right outside and saying, all right, I'm gonna come in and kill you right now imminently, and then
This is your warning.
This is your warning. If you want to escape, now is the time. I talked to your lawyer. I mean, I could argue that they were fleeing because of Ronan. We definitely know, watching the show, that there's a point where Ronan arrives and he is tearing through everybody.
Oh yeah, I don't think they leave anyone alive.
So I think at that point, had they left once Ronan was actually in the facility, we'd be in great shape as far as arguing a necessity and an urgent need to flee just to save their own lives.
Otherwise, you'd have to argue that somehow they knew and prove it.
Somehow they knew. Yeah, they knew he was coming.
Here's the thing. Gamora knows what Ronan's plan
Right.
is. So I guess you could say like Gamora's being like, yeah, I knew this is where he was coming next.
And she knows that they're coming for the orb. She knows the orb is there. She knows that all of those things are happening.
So if nothing else, Gamora gets out of there and the others, she could just be like, I don't know about them, but I knew.
I don't know about the tree. I don't understand half of what he says, but
I'm not with them.
I'm not with them. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the orb, right?
Yes.
So we have this power stone, which we go to the collector because they want to offload this thing to the collector, right? And he himself looks like he's a legal nightmare. He's got slaves.
Yep. He's got prisoners. He's got Howard the Duck.
He's got Howard the Duck. Yeah, he's got a living collection. Plus, the she's not a robot, right?
No, she just has very robotic features.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, I don't think she's a robot, but
I don't remember her name, but the assistant.
And
we definitely get the sense she's a slave
and being kept against her will.
Yeah, exactly.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for the discussion, it's almost kind of neither here nor there. You
Right.
know, he explains to them what this thing is.
Yeah.
It is at a minimum a weapon of mass destruction.
Right.
To which I said earlier, my favorite line of the whole movie is Rocket is like, why are you still holding that thing?
Yeah, why?
How could I think Tavon could contain whatever was within the orb?
What do you still have it for?
Well, what are we gonna do, leave it in there?
I can't believe you had that in your purse.
It's not a purse, it's a knapsack.
Once they know what it is,
Yeah.
what legal obligations are they under, if any, to do something with it? Because now you can't play dumb. You know you have a weapon of mass
Right.
destruction.
Well, I think it would be, again, very similar to Indiana Jones having the Ark. His plan was to put it in a museum, which is not arguably the safest place in the world for something that has the wrath of God contained in it.
Right.
This is an orb that, again, has biblical levels of power into it, celestial levels of power in it, and I don't know if it's a question of legal obligation as much. I still, if I was on their side, I would still argue finders keepers. They just need to make sure that they keep it in the damn orb and put it somewhere better than the shelf in my office. I think that what their moral directive was at that point in the show, and I agree with it, is we got to get it someplace safe, and the only safe place that we can even think of is the Nova Corps. And so that's where they're arguing about whether they're taking it to the Nova Corps or not taking it to the Nova Corps. So I think that is the right thing to do. I think that if someone found a suitcase with a nuclear device on it on the side of the road, please don't take it and call the police, would be my advice.
Right.
And I think that their directive, their argument about we got to get this to the Nova Corps is the same thing. It's the same thing as my advice to take your nuclear suitcase and turn it into the police and let them deal with it.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about, eventually Ronan does get possession of this. And then we get to this place where we're heading into our third act. It's going to be the final battle on Xandar, right?
Dance off, baby.
And Star-Lord calls Nova Corps. It's like, hey, I know I'm a fugitive, but this bad thing's going to happen. We're here to help you. Would I lie about what if I'm calling you, this is bad.
Right.
Now, after the battle's all over, we find out that they get, their criminal records are expunged, right? But can law enforcement do that? Like, if someone was like an on-the-run criminal and they called the police station, was like, hey, this attack is going to happen and I can help, are the police going to be like, all right, we need everybody. We need all the hands we can get.
What we need is a bunch of a-holes who have been chasing around
it's the
fugitives.
It's the deal that they make, and it doesn't even seem like a deal. It's kind of almost like a unspoken agreement, which is like, we're going to allow you guys to help us because this is real, real bad. Like, that couldn't legally happen, right?
Well, this is the way it would if it could. The highest level of this kind of a thing as a pardon.
Right.
Right. And so presidents are allowed to give pardons. Governors are allowed to give pardons. So since I focus here in the state of California, I'll be very focused on a governor's pardon as our example. Right. There have been times where governors will say, you know what, because of service, because of reasons, because of something, because of some extenuating circumstances that we found out after the fact, I'm going to issue you a pardon. Usually they're politically charged around it. Usually they're not very popular. There was talk with the Menendez brothers recently of, were they going to get a governor's pardon or were they just going to go through the courts? So a governor can do that. But they specifically use the word expungement, which is really interesting to me. And we have expungements here in California. And so an expungement process is after somebody's been convicted. So they already have this stuff on their record, not open cases, already convicted of cases, done their time, finished up probation, all of those things. Like they got a bad past. We sometimes hear that in movies or whatever, right? And so there is it's 1203.4 of the Penal Code. Not that we're keeping track, but and it allows people to go in, and as long as it's not a super violent case or they didn't do a bunch of prison time on it, then you can go in and potentially even some cases reduce felonies to misdemeanors. If they've paid their debt to society and done a good job and stayed out of trouble since then we can file for an expungement. And what it does is it dismisses the case. Now, there are some people who think that, but does that make it completely go away? No, it doesn't eliminate it. And we kind of get the sense in Guardians of the Galaxy, because they didn't hire me as their legal consultant, James Gunn, I am always available to you for free for any legal consulting for any project you ever do for the whole rest of all perpetuity throughout the universe. That was a contract. Sorry, I got a little excited there. No, but we get the sense that their record's just wiped clean.
Right.
And here in California, an expungement doesn't necessarily wipe your record clean, doesn't erase it completely, but it does enter it in as a dismissed case.
Okay.
And so if I was going to look up John Smith and I looked up to see that John Smith was convicted of armed robbery, actually that's a serious violent felony, was convicted of shoplifting and paid his debt to society and finished up, and now it's dismissed and now it's expunged, can't really be held against him, moving forward.
Would he have to claim it on a job application?
Well, it depends on how they ask. And while I'm not a labor law attorney, my friends that do labor law here in California advise me that there's been some new laws that have been passed that say employers are not allowed to hold expunged cases against you, and they're not even really allowed to do the same level of background check unless it affects your job,
right?
Specifically.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're counting money all day, they're going to want to know that you had a theft conviction.
Sure,
but
that makes sense.
But but they'd have to really articulate why.
I mean, this is interesting because we don't know exactly their rap sheets.
Well, I think Linda, who works with us, did some freeze frame work, and I think she was able to see some of them, but I think also some of them were in a different language.
Sure, and I'm sure it's not exhaustive, right?
Right.
So, I wonder. I don't know. I wonder if that expungement is galaxy-wide or it's just all the Xandar stuff you did is gone,
Yeah, and it's because it's unclear at that point whether, this is a Xandar-focused thing, this is a Nova Corps-focused thing. And I haven't read enough of these types of comics to know whether Nova Corps has the extent of their jurisdiction. Are they the police and courts for the entire universe? I don't get that sense. So, whatever their jurisdiction is, they would be clean. And that's what they seem to be the most worried about, right? I mean,
right.
The Guardians seem to be the most worried about what the Nova Corps thinks of them. So
they might be intergalactic,
criminals. Intergalactic criminals sounds so cool.
Here's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
So Groot sacrifices himself.
Right.
But is reborn as baby Groot.
Right. Adorable little dancing baby Groot.
New entity?
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
I think that this is something that I don't know the Groot species. We'll call them Grootians. You can, in the comments, if you're still listening, hit that and let us know what the thing is.
The T-Rex arms.
I know. It's the monkeys from Superman every single time. That's what I think of. No, but let us know. But it's very clear that this was a little tiny bit left of Groot that he had to regrow like a tree. What I think is fascinating through the episodes and everything else is the personality changes, where we definitely got a baby Groot, and then we've got a teenage Groot, and a kindergarten level Groot, and love all of Groot.
What's hilarious, by the way, just as an aside, and it's such a Marvel thing, you have called this a show, and then other movies episodes. I'm like, yeah, that pretty much is what the MCU is, right?
Yeah.
It's just another episode and a big show, right?
Another episode.
Yeah, because it's like, well, if this is a new being,
right?
Doesn't certainly seem to remember. I don't know, but it's like, does it have the same rap sheet, or is it like, no, I'm a new thing, you can't charge me with everything?
It's so hard to draw a comparison with the real world because we just don't have this. I got the sense that it's the same Groot, just going through new growth. So I'm gonna I would say that this is the same sentient Groot, just going through new puberty.
See, it's funny. I saw it as like son of Groot.
Oh, interesting.
But they still call it Groot. But I don't. Who knows?
Everything they say is Groot. So
everything's Groot.
So this could be Groot's daughter for all we know.
Yeah, Groota.
Groota, sure, yeah. Why not?
Groota Grunberg.
Eventually becomes somebody who cares a lot about the environment.
Well, maybe. So their records expunged.
Yeah.
We're gonna go off on new adventures.
And Every Mountain High Enough playing in the background.
Such a great ending,
right?
right?
So good.
I mean, I'm trying to think because it's like.
And William C. Riley with this family. You didn't know it was his family.
Didn't know that, the whole
so
time that little cutaways, you're like, why do they keep focusing on that? Yeah. That's his family. Now, Nebula, at this point, it's going to be another movie and a half almost before she kind of turns to the good guys.
Right.
But could you, if you were Nebula's attorney, could you just be like, she is so under duress, and yes, she did take part in helping Ronan get this thing. Yes, she did take part in this, whatever the hell happened at Xandar. I assume a lot of people died.
Right.
Because that thing crashes down, and it's big.
Yeah.
But is it more like, well, she's just as much of a victim of Ronan as anyone else? Or is it like, she's a victim, but also she's got to pay for what she did?
I just play a victim if I can be sure. Oh.
That was beautiful.
Ooga chaka. I was hooked on a feeling.
I know. Just I don't think I've ever heard you sing so sexily into the microphone.
Well,
it took us 22 episodes to get it.
I was moved.
Yeah. You don't even know what I was asking about anymore.
No, I do. Nebula and whether she's just as liable. I'm gonna say that it's gonna be a real stretch to say that Nebula wasn't a willing participant in everything that was going around. I mean, clearly she's manipulated really, really badly by Thanos. It's also unclear how much of the cybernetics in her system are controlling her brain versus her still having enough human brain. I mean, we see her playing chess with Tony Stark, or playing football
right,
with Tony Stark. So she seems to be more biological than.
She sheds a tear. Maybe is it in game?
Oh, maybe.
So she is capable of emotion.
Yeah.
I don't know about empathy, but
and we also see her leaving and coming back and that kind of thing. And yeah, we can try to argue that that's Thanos manipulation or fear of Ronan or whatever, but it's going to be a much bigger uphill battle than a lot of the other examples we've had over time.
I would just think though, like, and I don't know if we say manipulation as if he's emotionally manipulating her, which he probably is.
Yeah.
But we're talking like there's a chance that Nebula is going to get disassembled if she goes back to Thanos and has not done what he's asked. So it's like at that point, is it any different than like a bomb strapped to her neck, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's different because there doesn't seem to be that level of power and control. It just we don't see that. And fast forward into the beginning of Guardians 2, you know, where she comes in and basically takes over the Ravagers, it really seems like she's got more independence than that. And because of that, I think we'd have an even harder time. Clearly, that's the play. If I needed to represent her in Xandarian court with the, you know, in front of the Nova Corps, I'm gonna play her up to be, you know, the unwitting pawn of Thanos and Ronan, and she was only doing what she was told, and she was manipulated, and who knows how those cybernetics were affecting her brain. I would be making all of those arguments. I just think it's a much bigger uphill battle for her because she seems to be a lot more in control.
I guess the only thing I would say is like when they meet her again in Volume 2, she'd been captured by a different society.
Yes.
Now, we don't know if Thanos was eventually going to go get her or not, or just let her rot there. But like her independence isn't gained until that part, you know?
Right.
Or until it's not like we don't really know if she's able to like go anywhere she wants. It seems like she doesn't have the privileges that Gamora has.
True, but I just think about her taking over the Ravagers, and that was a pretty bold, I'm in control, I'm going to outsmart the other people around me, and she goes in and takes over the entire gang. I mean, now granted, you know, she was going up against Taserface, so, you know, it's a little different, but...
Right. Nebula to me is one of the most interesting characters in the MCU. Like her turn from being a villain all the way to like one of the most lovable characters,
right?
You know, especially by the time we get to like Volume 3,
right,
where that's where she sheds the tear.
Yeah.
It's when Rocket is alive.
Oh, that's true.
You know?
That's true. Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah.
I also though remember at Comic-Con them announcing that she was going to play Gamora and her taking off that beautiful red wig and showing the entire audience that she was
going to play
bald.
Nebula.
Yeah, because Karen Gillian has beautiful, beautiful red hair and yeah, I'm partial to the redheads.
Okay.
Yeah. Love you, wifey. She's the redhead.
Let's get into some fan questions here. Yeah. Unless you have something to say about Ronan, he just seems like a bad.
He's just bad.
He's just a bad.
No, he's just bad.
All right. So this comes from Emily, who I don't think has seen Volume 3.
Okay.
Based on
we can assume not Volume 3 for a minute. Yeah.
If Rocket was created through illegal experiments, could he sue whoever made him, even if they're on another planet? Now, we know from seeing Volume 3, he's created by the High Evolutionary, part of, you know, a whole bunch of experiments. So we know who it is. I mean, sue him where? With the Nova Corps?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, suing people is usually reserved for trying to get money damages back out of someone for harm that's caused. So I'm going to sue the person that hit my car in a car accident because I want to get money back for my medical bills and for the damage to my car. Rocket could certainly sue somebody who did all of that to him in the same way that we would sue anybody that injures us. Then there's the second part of the question just about where, which sets up a jurisdictional question. If Rocket lived in California and the High Evolutionary lived in Arizona and did the experiments to him in Arizona, and now he lives in California, there is a chance that civilly he's going to need to go back to Arizona in order to sue him for that. That's the easiest way to explain it from a legal perspective without factoring in the High Evolutionary status and intergalactic and different planets and
well, it's also
all
like,
of those things.
all the way back to our Jurassic Park episode, I asked, like, could the dinosaurs sue for being created?
Oh, and the answer is yes, because of sentience and the raptor.
And then I
image.
asked, could I sue God for creating me?
Yeah,
And you said, good luck.
Good
serving him."
luck serving him. Yeah.
I feel like the high evolutionary might be the same way. Where,
Agreed. Yeah.
I mean, could there be I don't know if I'm sure there's no precedent for it, but couldn't the high evolutionary be like, you weren't alive, I made you alive?
Right.
Like, that's.
Yeah. I mean, because we are talking about the process of taking a puppy, right, a raccoon, and turning it into Scooby-Doo.
Right.
Right, a talking raccoon with a sentience. So there is an aspect of creation, but then there also is the aspect of torture and everything that he had to go through for the cybernetic implants.
Yeah,
and
but
the
there's no
different
law
things.
that says you can't make a raccoon talk.
True.
right?
And if that's the end of the question, then sure, you gave him a wonderful gift and now he can talk. But we know from what we see just in Guardians 1, the first time that, they have to go through the orange goo in prison,
Right, yeah.
we know what's going on with his back and that he's got all of those gears and holes and stuff in his back and everything else. So also Volume 3 makes it clear that Rocket went through some terrible stuff.
Horrible.
So if it was just giving him sentience, then no. You made a raccoon smarter. If it's all the other things, then yeah, I think he can sue for damages.
All right, Dylan has a follow-up to our Groot discussion. Is Groot's baby Groot technically his child, or is it a clone? Does the law treat that as inheritance? So does whatever this new baby Groot, do they inherit any possessions that whatever the old Groot had?
My wife's always telling me that I should try to not get credit for the things that I say are stupid, but I think are funny.
Okay.
But I really wanted to answer this question only speaking in Grootian and just repeatedly say I am Groot until you got angry with me and frustrated and then moved on to the next
I'm not gonna lie,
question.
it wouldn't take very long.
I think that because my position is it's still the same Groot,
Then it's still a stuff.
that it's still a stuff.
Okay. Well, cut and dry.
Just a little bit of credit for not being incredibly annoying in my answer to that question.
Okay, here's an interesting one.
Ah.
This one's Priya again. If Peter Quill was kidnapped from Earth, could Earth demand he be returned even though he's now an adult?
No. So a state wouldn't have the standing to demand that he would be returned to the state. So I'm going to use that as the analogy. The only way and if he is an adult, then nobody's making demands about where he lives or anything along those lines. So Earth wouldn't be able to demand his return. His grandfather is probably really the person that has the most standing to demand anything about Peter. Peter's grandfather could have demanded his return, but what would have what
Demand to who? to
Yeah,
what,
yeah,
you know?
and I mean this is
This question seems to me like it was more in the lines of like, if you were kidnapped by another country, can the U.S. demand? That.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm reading into.
Well, it's another good fact pattern. I mean, if Canada kidnapped, I'm trying to think of the most ridiculous example.
if
I could
Canada
think of.
kidnapped you, I would be like, stay, thank them. Just listen, put on some Alanis Morissette,
and-
have some maple
Yeah,
syrup,
yeah.
and just be happy.
Just find where Ryan Reynolds is hanging out having a coffee. What I would say is, and I'm going to use that as a super silly example because it makes it less dark.
Sure.
If Canada kidnapped me, yes, the United States could demand my return and could say you're illegally holding him and let him go and bring him back, or we're going to have problems. So countries can make those demands of each other. So using that, Earth could demand that Xandar return Peter Quill or something along those lines. But all of that assumes that I am mad like using
Right,
your example,
yeah,
right? That
right.
I'm not happy that I was kidnapped and taken to Canada. So is Peter mad that he was kidnapped and taken to Xandar or wherever the Ravengers are hanging out? And now, as an adult, does he want to come back? He could have come back anytime he wanted. So I still think that the answer is no. That Earth couldn't demand him back, whether it's a kidnapping situation, whether it's a country demanding from another country situation. I think because Peter is old enough now, the time has passed.
All right, this last one comes from Victor. Could the Nova Corps legally expunge the Guardians' entire criminal record, or would other planets still have outstanding charges?
It depends completely on the extent of the Nova Corps' authority.
Sure.
And that goes back to some of our other conversations where it's unclear whether they're galactic police, whether they are galactic police and justice, whether they are courts as well. And I'm just not familiar enough with the background of the Nova Corps to know. I get the sense that at a minimum they're cops. I also get the sense that they somehow control jails and might have some level of courts of justice or something along those lines.
But only for certain sectors, because it's like obviously Earth is not governed by the Nova Corps.
Right. So I mean, if Peter Quill had murdered somebody here on Earth and the Nova Corps gave him a pardon for that, Earth's not going to care.
Right.
Like Earth still wants to prosecute him or, treat him as a murderer, put him back in jail for being a murderer here. So I think your question about your comment about who has the jurisdiction over it and kind of who appreciates and recognizes the authority of the Nova Corps is the key to that answer.
Sometimes I feel like you see that like in the news where someone's like sentenced to life in prison somewhere, but it's like, well, they're just never going back to that country then because they're not like they're sentenced when they're not there. You know?
Right. And they just
they're just like, well, okay, well, guess not going back there.
I guess I'm not going there again.
Well, again, this movie is so much fun. There are a lot of like interesting legal angles, but it's hard to watch this movie to like analyze because you just get sucked in to just like the romp, right? The camaraderie. And
I still have a bunch of these songs like on my regular playlist, and kudos to James Gunn for just kicking off a new era of comics. I mean, comic movies and comic shows and stuff like that. Because this is, we can trace Peacemaker that is now on HBO directly back to Guardians and its tone and its using fun music and everything else.
Even like, Judo Master is kind of your Nebula.
Exactly.
Starts off as your bad guy, ends up part of the team by the end, like there's a lot of James Gunn isms that you can definitely trace back to the first Guardians. Still a lot of fun.
Yep.
Still incredibly rewatchable. I'm sure we will do volumes 2 and 3 down the line. Because they do get more complex as we go. This is a great light table setter of like, here's these fun people that we're going to get to know. And then once we get to know them, we get into some heavier stuff.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to do the holiday special at some point.
Oh, I love
talk
the
about the
holiday
kidnapping
special.
of Kevin Bacon.
Which that should be legal, right? Everyone should be able to
but
bring
what
home
if he
a Kevin
just
Bacon.
what if he just really wanted him more than everybody else?
Solid legal defense, right? Was that as a lawyer where you're like, that is solid. What if I just want it more?
Yeah, no, it was more like a conversation I would have with a 15-year-old.
But wait, I don't think you understand,
right.
Your Honor. I wanted it more.
I wanted it more than him.
Well, if you want more of us, we are right here on the YouTube channel. We got a ton of other videos. Also, if you want to keep us just in your car or in your headphones, you can go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, really anywhere that you get your podcasts. Doug, the friends, is there. Doug, thank you so much for your legal expertise.
You bet. I'm hooked on this feeling.
And we are hooked on you. So hopefully you're hooked on us, and we will see you next week.
And Quill, your ship is filthy.
Oh, she has no idea. If I had a black light, the place would look like a Jackson Pollock painting.
You got issues, Quill.